A little while ago, I went to visit Paumanok vineyards on the North Fork of Long Island with some friends, including people who were very close to the owners and the founders, the Massoud family. So it's really a domain that's been around for 40 years, one of the earlier pioneers in the region to make wine in Long Island. And they've had a lot of success over time with quite a few cuvées, as you see lined up on the shelf in the back. This is their tasting room, and it's sitting on top of their barrel room. This is the old barn that was basically transformed into the winery, renovated, and used as the main winery for the estate. It's charming, sort of typical Long Island style of construction. At this point, I'm going to ask you to please stay with me until the end of the video, because at the end we will be tasting a very special wine that I discovered during my visit there. Thanks. The property has quite a few bottlings, Blanc de Blanc, which is their champagne, Chenin Blanc, Cabernet, Merlot, Assemblage, which is a blend of several Petit Verdot, and they're very proud of what they've been able to accomplish, and they've gotten a lot of accolades and a lot of prizes, as you can see, for their many cuvées over the years. It's a beautiful property with lots of outdoor space to receive guests. There's over 120 acres of vines and other land, and we were really well received by the family. We were sitting on a terrace overlooking what you see here. Let's briefly meet the family. This is Charles Massoud, the patriarch, the founder. Started all this with him in 1983, and the first vintage that came out was in the late 80s. Charles is a close relative of the Massoud family in Lebanon, who make Atibaya, that is, as you know, one of my top favorite Lebanese wines. So it started all with Charles and Ursula and their 3 boys in 1983. Here you see the snapshot. And then the kids grew up to become very involved with all aspects of the winemaking business. This is Karim, very handsome young man, as you can see. He was the one we met during the tasting. He's the winemaker, and so he was able to comment on a lot of the wines and be with us as we were asking a lot of questions. We started with the whites, 2 whites here, as you can see. The Chenin Blanc, which is unusual, and the Blanc de Blanc. The Chenin Blanc was really delightful, sharp, acidic, citrusy, and we had it with beautiful fresh oysters. That was a lot of fun because they come from right there in the water. As you can imagine, I mean, Paumanok is basically between 2 bodies of water on this North Fork of Long Island that doesn't exceed in width a few miles. So it's kind of an interesting, context. The Blanc de Blanc was just incredibly fine and subtle, and it really reminded me a lot with that brioche taste. It reminded me a lot of the Bollinger that we tasted together, and talking to Charles about it turns out that he really agrees. Then we went on to the reds, and we tasted, I think, a few others like the Assemblage, but I'm focusing on this picture where you have the Petit Verdot, the Merlot, and the Minimalist. The Merlot was really good. As you know, I'm a little bit doubtful about Merlot sometimes, but this was smooth, round, soft. It was just really pleasurable. Maybe not necessarily as complex as some Merlots can be, but it was really very good. And it's a grand vintage, which they only put on their best years, that label. When they were talking about the assemblage and different wines they make, Charles was describing how good their Petit Verdot was. And my question was, well, why don't you make a Petit Verdot? He said, well, we make one. So we did get it on the table, we tasted it, and it was just sharp, but deep and dark and really sort of flavorful, like we really expect Petit Verdot to be. And I really like Petit Verdot, so that was really a delight. And I did get some of those. The last one is the Cabernet Minimalist that we're going to do separately. So I will stop on this right now. This is Karim and me discussing later on, as you can imagine, stocking up on the beautiful wines. What's available now, I took a bunch with me. What's going to be available very soon. It was really a lot to choose from, so I'm very happy I have this new source. It's really not far from our home. This was just a beautiful afternoon, spent tasting beautiful wines in a beautiful setting with just a very nice family. So I'm very thankful for this. please stick around for the video on the minimalist. Thanks. Hello again. I know it's been a while, but we'll try to catch up. This is really a quick video that will be part of a bigger session, let's say, about Paumanok, whom we went to visit a couple of days ago. We spent a wonderful afternoon, as you will see. And I figured I want to just single this wine out. We're talking about other wines as well in the bigger picture. But I want to talk about this wine, single it out specifically because I found it very, very interesting. It's a Cabernet Sauvignon, 100% Cabernet, called Minimalist. And this is a 2015 vintage. They don't really make it every year, only when they feel they have the quality that's required. That was the last one. I think the next one might very well be 2022. And Minimalist is just very, very low intervention, zero intervention basically. They take the clusters, they just put them in the fermentation, and then they age them in stainless steel and neutral oak, 50-50 about, and then they bottle them like 2 years later or something. And so there's no SO2. It's sort of indigenous yeasts. Nothing's added. There's not even enough SO2 generated during the fermentation process to actually need to be put on the label. So it's just really an incredibly natural and pure wine, and I really liked it during the visit. I figured we'd just focus on it a little bit. So here we are. We have sort of this typical Cabernet color, although it's kind of interesting because it has a little bit of that violet tint on the edges, but it's got that depth of Cabernet on the nose. It's just really lots of fruit. It's very vibrant. It's very alive. It's sort of, I don't think it's like any other Cabernet, I would say. Not really like a French Cabernet. It tends to be a bit more serious, and not so much like a West Coast Cabernet. It tends to be even more plush and exuberant, maybe because of the alcohol. This is under 14% alcohol. But it's got a little bit of tartness. It's got the fruit. It's just sort of, it's very aromatic, and so it's got a pleasure on that, just even on that alone. Once you open this, these use caps because they're starting to try to get away from corks because you have much more reliability and predictability in the quality of the caps. And so caps is completely air sealed, and so as soon as you open it, the wine's going to start moving very quickly. And when we first opened it, there was really no funkiness that sometimes you get with the no sulfur wines. No funkiness at all. It jumped right out of the bottle. Just that immediacy that you get really with these types of wines is there. It's very, very perceivable. I mean, you can just, and it goes in, and it sort of goes everywhere because it's got nice volatility, and the finish is very sort of smooth, soft. I would say soft is a funny word. It's kind of very fine. The tannins are there, but they kind of not really. They don't sort of poke at you. It's pretty velvety, I would say. In the mouth, in the palate, you just get the fruit that's really coating, and it's kind of, again, this is a wine. It's a good summer wine, I think. Even though it's a Cabernet, you can put it in the fridge for a little bit. It really can take that kind of treatment. It's just quite interesting, and I'm very happy we were able to get some of this. See you guys soon.